Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video on the channel. And in today's video, we will be talking about the new teasers that Cam actually released yesterday over on his stream, King Hephaestus, if you want to check him out on Twitch. But there are some news regarding the new shads coming with the Darkmoor update, and essentially, little TLDR, all of the shads are getting reworked yet again. So that will be two shadow, reworks this year. One in the spring, where we got like the new Rusolka and whatnot, and then we'll have one at the very end of the year here, where they're all getting changed again. Now, I believe Cam went on record and he said they tried to make them stay as similar as possible to the ones they made in the spring. So, I mean, I guess that's a little nice and whatnot. But I'm sure people in the community are going to be really triggered that they keep touching these old parts of the game, whether, it's shads and whatnot, or like older spells. Like, I remember in the spring when the shad change happened, which I didn't mind personally, I was pretty neutral on it. People were like flipping out, more on the casual end and whatnot. And honestly, I do understand that their frustration. I can like put myself in their shoes to get that. But hopefully this is the last time we see them touch shads, because I think I've lost count how many times they've touched shads in the past like 10 years even. If anybody does know how many times they have tried to audit shads, let me know in the comments below. I'm genuinely curious about the number on that. That'd be pretty funny. If somebody can find that, I will put it as the top pinned comment in this video. Anyways, so there's some new spells here. So Cam teased two spells, I believe. So we have Dark Surge and Donate Shadow, which are utility shads, which means it's not like Rusolka where, it hits and does like extra damage and you might get utility. These ones are just pure utility of the shad itself. So with Dark Surge, we actually have a pretty substantial nerf here to it. It essentially is kind of similar to the old one in a way. So you're going to get a pip for your school. So let's say I'm a Storm casting this new spell. I will get a Storm pip. And I will get a pip for the school I'm weaved in. So again, let's say I'm a Storm weaved into Fire. I will get a Storm and a Fire pip out of this Dark Surge, and I also take 10% of it, like backlash of my life when I cast this spell. So essentially, it's basically you get pips that you might want, which I mean is nice, right? But you're going to take backlash now, and that's pretty much it. Okay. And another thing in the card text here, which I find a little confusing, is it says noob pips. It's not a power pip, as you can see. But the issue is, with an Archmastery pip and whatnot, those are always power pips. They can't be noob pips. So the text is kind of contradicting itself here. It should be +1 pip, like power pip, and then Archmastery power pip, because you can only get Archmastery pips if they're power pips, but just a little thing they should probably fix there on the card art. But yeah, I mean, this is obviously a net nerf to Dark Surge. I mean, people were kind of asking for there to be some kind of backlash to running Surge. So, I mean, this is cool and whatnot, I suppose. How this is going to affect the meta, though, there are a couple of implications on that I went out and discussed with chat and whatnot. So let's go over the pros of the new Dark Surge. It is essentially going to reduce RNG in PvP because you won't lose off of not pulling Surge anymore. This is under the assumption that most people aren't going to use it because it's just not worth using at this point, by the way. Managing pips will be a skill again because you can't just Dark Surge and get the free value all the time and spam it, right? More deck space because the card is terrible, so that's good. People want more deck space, but again, making meta cards absolutely terrible to the point you don't pack them, to the point you pack something else. I'm not sure if that's the right way to go. Maybe you guys like that. I don't really know. Personally, and I'll talk about this probably later in the video or in another video, but I believe that instead of just gutting meta cards like, I don't know, like Balance Scion and whatnot, or maybe the Dark Surge here. They should go a little easier on them. This is also an indirect nerf to death as well, because without Dark Surge being good or spammy, people are going to have to resort to either Steel Pip or Empower, and it'll probably be Empower. Death is the worst at using Empower substantially comparatively to the other schools, so that's a very minor death nerf there. What you're probably going to see be a reality though is every single school is going to have to pass like max Steel Pip, because Steel Pip is really broken at the moment, and unfortunately, it is technically, objectively, pay to win. There is no free to play way to get it in the game, unfortunately. So it is one of those pay to win things in the game, but hopefully they can fix that around this time. Then we have some of the negatives here. We have this increases the barrier to entry to PvP, simply because instead of just learning Dark Surge at the Arcanum with a training point, which is relatively easy, now you have to have like an Empower farm, you know, a garden and whatnot, or it's just another TC you have to go and find at the bazaar, or, you know, hit up a friend for Empowers. Now, generally, for most people that do PvP, this probably won't be a problem. I assume you already have a garden, but again, one of the biggest issues in PvP is the barrier to entry and getting the more casual people into PvP. That's why it's not doing too good at the moment. So it is another barrier to entry for the more newbier side of things. I think that is very important to acknowledge here. And then we have the spell is unusable. It's pretty much giga nerfed. So, you know, that's kind of bad. But again, you could view it as a positive maybe, because you have more deck space to pack more counters and whatnot. So, you know, but just thought I'd put that there. Next up, we have matches are indirectly longer, and this will buff jading. Now, this will buff jading for a couple of reasons. One, you can't get the pips to counter, like, you know, counter spam, I guess, if that makes any sense. Like, counter, surge, counter, right? Like, you can't really do that as effectively anymore. That will be worse now with this update. And life, there's two things. One, you could use Dark Surge because you'll just be healing off your Lash anyways, no problem, as a life, right? And two, healing per pip is the highest number in the game, even above storm damage per pip, right? And again, if the counters are getting worse this update, which they are, it's just going to be an indirect buff to jading and whatnot. Life is already like a number 2, number 3 school. That's debatable right now in the meta between 2 and 3 at the moment. But it's already a top 3 school. That's not really up for debate. And it's getting another jading buff here. So hopefully with this update, they actually put a proper heal cap in, and we still haven't heard a word from them. Like, have they considered fixing the heal cap? Because what they proposed was an absolutely terrible idea. Their idea was to allow the Life Wizard to heal for 30,000 before their heals start getting penalized or capped, which is absolutely bad shit crazy, right? So hopefully they listen to the community. And then lastly here, on the point of Dark Surge, this is a Storm nerf because your spells have no weight due to no dual schooling. So back to the point I just stated with Dark Surge and counters getting worse, right? So even if you are on a good school that can like dual school and, you know, surge into a counter, right? Storm is going to be the worst of the game at doing that, simply because their dual schooling is still disabled as of this day. So anytime they surge into a counter, not only are they losing a good chunk of their HP because they're so fragile, their counters actually aren't putting any pressure or weight onto the opponent because they don't work, unlike the 6 other schools, right? So indirect nerf to Storm here as well. Not really surprised. Every patch they nerf the school, even though it's always a bottom 2, bottom 3 school. Pretty wild, whatever. Moving on. Donate Shadow gets an accuracy buff to 100% from like 75%, I believe, in Live Realm. So that's pretty nice for PvE players, or, you know, team PvP, whenever that happens to come back and whatnot. I don't really know why that spell was a, you know, chance to fizzle. I don't really get it, but it's a good buff they made there. And lastly, as I spoke about at the start of the video here, they're going to be reworking all the shads. So one they talked about, I think, was Raging Bull. Someone in my chat brought that up yesterday. But Bull is supposed to be getting nerfed quite heavily. I've heard, which is really good because Raging Bull is absolutely stupid right now, right? Like, fires are just terrorizing the queue at the moment. Even when Raging Bull was nerfed, a lot of good fires, including myself, were just absolutely dominating people with a nerfed Raging Bull. But by the sounds of it, this new bull is going to be nerfed even harder than the old Raging Bull, so that's a good thing. Just yesterday, I played a game on my fire, and I sent like a triple buffed Mars or something like that, or I don't know how much buffs it was. And this guy did like a Stormzilla or Tuaret or something to remove two of the dots, and I bulled one, and it still did 10k. Just a single dot. Like, absolutely insane. But yeah, I think that's everything we got to cover for the news today, y'all. What do you think about these changes and whatnot? Curious to read what you got to say down there in the comments below. Overall, personally, generally, I think it's probably good for the game, right? Like, I think managing your pips is going to be more of a skill again, which I do miss in PvP. And having the packing power again, even though it raises the barrier to entry for the more newbier side of things, it's going to feel like OG PvP, where, you actually have some power to get pips. That'll be a nice feeling to see that back and whatnot. Part of me is kind of gonna miss Dark Surge, but at the same time, it's kind of felt like it's overstayed its welcome in the meta for quite some time. And I guess another positive here at the end, actually, is people might not run so many pieces of shad gear anymore. So you might go back to 2 or 3 piece shad gear if your school does not have any good shads at all, which, of course, depending on the school, might indirectly lower the barrier to entry actually for some of the newbier players. But that's a pretty big what if, but it is a possibility of the outcome. But yeah, we'll have to see. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a like and sub if you made it this far. If not, that's okay. I appreciate you for watching. Take care, and goodbye.